How's it going, everyone? In today's video, we have some big news on why Sasha Banks has now returned to WWE. WWE wants to bring back a current AEW talent and a whole lot more. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get the latest wrestling news. Alright guys, so for our first story of today, we have some news on WWE's current plan for the next draft. So even though it doesn't appear like WWE is going to do a draft this year, WWE's plan for when the next one will take place has now been revealed, as Dave Meltzer reports that usually WWE holds the draft in September or October, but for some reason they didn't do it this time. However, there is now talk about doing the draft sometime next year after WrestleMania 39. Next up, we have some news that an ex WWE star has returned to the company. So from the looks of it, another ex WWE star is back working with the company, but not as a wrestler, as Fightful Select reports that Jason Jordan and former Cruiserweight Champion Brian Kendrick were listed as producers for the match between Ronda Rousey and Shotzi at Survivor Series. But it remains to be seen if Brian Kendrick is back full-time or if he's on a trial basis. Next up, we have some big news on plans for Cody Rhodes' return. So although Cody Rhodes is still not expected to return anytime soon, when he eventually makes his return, it appears like he will continue where he left off, as Zero News reports that Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes is 100% still the plan for when Cody returns from his injury. So unless things change, it seems like Cody Rhodes will be continuing his feud with Seth Rollins. Next, we have some bad news on Randy Orton's return. So despite undergoing lower back fusion surgery, not only is Randy Orton's return date unknown, it looks like his chances of stepping back into a WWE ring are unknown as well, as Fightful Select reports that there are very real fears that Randy Orton may never return to the ring due to his serious back injury. So it appears like things are not looking too good for Randy Orton's return to the ring. Next, we have some news on WWE interested in bringing back a current AEW talent. So by the looks of it, there is now a very good chance that a current AEW talent ends up leaving the company in order to return to WWE, as Dave Meltzer reports that William Regal has been discussed for a potential return to WWE. However, it's worth noting that if he does return, it won't be until next year because he still has several months left on his current AEW deal. Next up, we have some big news on why Sasha Banks has still not returned to WWE. So even though fans were very disappointed that Sasha Banks did not return at Survivor Series, her return to the company is still something that can happen. As Dave Meltzer stated in the Wrestling Observer, they're in contract talks. The last I heard, it was a money situation, but that was a long time ago, so I don't know where it stands right now. So just because Sasha Banks is still not back in WWE, her return still looks to be on the table. So now guys, I want to give you my thoughts and opinions on all of the topics that we discussed today. Starting off with our first topic, we did talk about plans for the next WWE draft, and it does look like the draft, although it did not happen this year, which is something that WWE usually does around I believe September or October. They usually do the draft at that time. The plan for the next WWE draft is to do it sometime after WrestleMania 39. So I guess sometime in April, they plan to do the next draft. So it will be very interesting to see what happens. The next story that we talked about was on an ex WWE star returning to the company, and Fightful Select their report that along with Jason Jordan, former Cruiserweight Champion Brian Kendrick they were both listed as producers for the match between Ronda Rousey and Shotzi Blackheart. But at this point in time, it remains to be seen if Brian Kendrick is back working as a producer full time or if he's on a trial basis. So that remains to be seen. The next story that we talked about was on some plans for Cody Rhodes' return, and Zero News did report that as of right now, Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes is still the plan. And in my opinion, guys, I do think that although Seth Rollins is kind of a babyface right now, I think the most logical thing that WWE will do will be for Cody Rhodes to return and to face Seth Rollins, and then they could potentially have a big match for WrestleMania 39, but that obviously remains to be seen. The next story that we talked about was some very bad news for Randy Orton's return, and according to Fightful Select, they are reporting that within WWE, there are very real fears that Randy Orton may never return to the ring again because his back injury is that serious, and he did undergo recently fusion surgery for his lower back. So things are not looking good for Randy Orton's return, which is a shame because he's been with the company for many, many years, and he is obviously already a legend. So it sadly looks like if things do not improve in terms of his injury, he could be pretty much forced to retire, which is very unfortunate. The next story that we talked about was on WWE being interested in bringing back a current AEW talent, and Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer did report in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer. He did say that WWE has discussed a potential return for William Regal. However, it won't be happening until next year because he did sign, I do believe, a 1-year contract with AEW. So he still has several months left on his AEW deal. But in my opinion, guys, I do think that William Regal will eventually make his return to WWE because under Triple H, they had a pretty good relationship, and I do see William Regal back in WWE, in particular with NXT. The next story that we talked about was kind of some big news on Sasha Banks' return, or why Sasha Banks has still not made her return to WWE. And according to Dave Meltzer, he did say in the Wrestling Observer Radio that the last thing that he's heard in regards to Sasha Banks' return was that it was a money situation that was pretty much keeping Sasha Banks from making her return to the company. However, he does not know if things have changed because this information that he received was something that he got a few months ago or weeks ago, and who knows if that situation has changed. But in my opinion, guys, I do think that Sasha Banks will eventually make her return to WWE. Maybe not now, but I think next year, potentially at the Royal Rumble, would be a very good surprise. She would be a very good surprise entrant for the Royal Rumble, so that remains to be seen, but hopefully she does return. So with that being said, guys, that is all of the news that we have for today. Please make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions on all of the topics that we discussed today in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.